Okay, so I promised that I would show you some more example problems. So these are angle of depression examples. Again, make sure your mode is in degrees. So we're going to talk about this little boy, and whew, scary. He's standing on a cliff above the water, and he sees a boat that is 200 feet away. So here's the little boat, here's the cliff. Here's the little boy standing on the cliff, okay, and he's seeing a boat in the water. It's kind of a sad boat. Anyway, so he sees the boat, and it's 315 feet away from him. So he's going to look in here, that's 315 feet. And let's see, we see that he sees a boat that's 200 feet away from the base of the cliff. So here's my cliff. This is going to be 200 feet away. And now we've got to have our horizontal. So our horizontal is right here. And if we know this, we know that this angle is going to be congruent to this angle. So we could also think of the boat looking up at the little boy. So that's what we're going to call x, because we want to know what the angle of depression is from the little boy to the boat. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our trig ratio. We know this is our 90-degree angle here. So what we have is we have our hypotenuse, that's here. And then this side right here is adjacent to my angle that I'm looking for. So once again, I hope you write this down as much as I do. We're looking at adjacent and hypotenuse. So we are looking at the cosine. So we're going to find the cosine of x is equal to adjacent, which is 200 feet, over the hypotenuse, which is 315. Because I'm looking for an angle, I'm going to have to hit second cosine to the -1 and multiply this side by cosine to the -1, parentheses 200 divided by 315, and I should end up with about 50.6 degrees, which is approximately 51 degrees. Okay, my second situation, well this one's nice because this one's drawn for me. Okay, so I've got a princess, she's on top of a tower. The tower is on top of a 167-foot tower. So this right here is 167 feet. Okay. She's looking down at a 37-degree angle. So I know that this angle as well is 37 degrees. And what else do we got? We got that we want to know there's this package that she's dropping down, and it's this length right here is what we don't know. So we're calling that x. Okay? And we've got this right angle right here. So there's our special right triangle. Well, we know that x is going to represent our hypotenuse. This side over here is the opposite. And so if I'm thinking of sine, cosine, or tangent, well, I know the sine of 37 degrees is going to equal 167 divided by the hypotenuse. This is one of those situations where you got to switch them up, and it's a division problem. So this is going to be 167 divided by the sine of 37, and that equals 277.5. So that means the hypotenuse is 277.5. And just by looking at a quick check, I know my hypotenuse has to be the longest side. And since 277 is in fact longer than 167, it is a legitimate answer. So here we've got an airplane is flying at an altitude of 1,200 meters. So when I hear the word altitude, I think of how far the plane is directly 90 degrees with the ground. Right? The angle of depression to a building is 28 degrees. And so that's going to be here and here as well, but I'm just going to label this one 28 degrees. That's a funky looking building, I tell you. Find the distance from the plane to the base of the building. And so that's the plane. Here's the base of the building. So I'm looking for that right there. All right, so how do I do this? You gotta think of my trig ratios and think of what I know. Well, I know that this is across from the right angle, so it's the hypotenuse. And this is actually across or opposite the angle. So opposite, hypotenuse, so I'm going to use the sine of 28 equals 1200 over x. So again, this is going to be a division problem. X is going to equal, I'm just going to flip-flop these two, 1200 divided by the sine of 28. And that equals 2,556.07 meters. Whew, last problem we're going to do together. Please, again, if there's anything you're not understanding, either review the tape again or go ahead and ask a question. But I need a specific question. So we've got a sonar operator. Okay, so sonar is going underground or underwater. Horizontally 37, how deep is the sub? So this is 37 degrees, excuse me. And the distance is 500 meters. And so I want to know, how deep is the sub? So this is going to be the right angle. I don't know the hypotenuse. But what I do know is that this side is opposite and this side is adjacent. So I'm going to be looking at the tangent of 37 is x over 500. So this is just a simple multiplication problem. I'm going to multiply these two numbers together, and I get x equals 376.8. So these problems are not difficult if you have a good, clear picture of what they look like, and if you type the stuff in your calculator correctly. That's where it can get a little complicated. So I've got several options for you to choose from. Okay, so if you go to Canvas, well, first of all, there's paper. There's 6 problems on paper that need to be completed. Also, if you go to Canvas, it's going to be a pain, isn't it? And you look at today's date, I've got a link. Let's see, today is the 10th. I've got this fabulous link right here for this new website. And this is practice. If you are still having a difficulty and you don't like watching the video, you can read an article about it right here. You just click on this link right here. If you want a challenge problem, you click on this link right here. If you want a video by somebody other than me, click here. But you do have to also tell me your score that you get here on these problems. So you're just going to hit Start Practice. Start practicing. Okay, and here are the problems. Now, when you work these problems out, don't think that just because they're on the computer, you don't need to actually write it down on paper. You can either down here use the scratch pad, or if you don't want to use a scratch pad, you can just draw it on a separate sheet of paper. You can also get hints. So if you're struggling and you don't know what to do, you can click on Get a Hint, and they'll provide hints for you. And it won't affect your score at all. Okay? So go ahead and try these problems. There's 14 of them, or it should take about 14 minutes. I don't know exactly how many problems there are. And then you also have some practice problems that you need to do on paper. Please remember, this is a critical time. We have 4 weeks left. You can do this. All right, no excuses. But you got to put in the time and the effort. Okay? Bring questions on Monday when I get back. And good luck.